you're ready.
Okay, so I chose the human capital theory, lack of access theory, and the mental bandwidth theory. And what I had in mind when I was starting this paper is, why is the United States poverty level so high compared to other developed nations? And so that's what I had in mind the whole time. And I also am really concerned about childhood poverty because, of this, you saw that, this cycle of poverty that seems to be never ending, especially in America's inner cities and Appalachian regions that are isolated and have their own internal struggles. So for the human capital theory, it basically explains that people are poor because they're lacking in human capital like experience and training. And that is statistically proven that you can, like, the more education and training you get, the more likely you are to have a better job, but at the same time you have to take into account outside influences on poverty, such as like losing your job or being hurt and unable to work or having a disability. And so also for each argument I tried to provide an argument and sort of like a rebuttal just to balance it out, because I don't wholeheartedly believe in any of the theories. So sort of my rebuttal to the human capital theory is the lack of access theory in itself, and that if you lack access to good educational opportunities, you're obviously going to be less successful unless you have like really good luck or good connections somehow. And so the lack of access theory obviously states that if you don't have access to something, you're more likely to be poor. And I agree with the lack of access theory the most, but there's also this toxic thing of where you think that education is going to be the only solution to poverty, and you don't take into account like our social circumstances in America and a lot of the discrimination that comes with it. So that's sort of my only counter argument to the lack of access theory. And lastly, the mental bandwidth theory basically explains that poor kids are more likely to be less attentive or focused in class, or just poor people in general are going to have less cognitive abilities because they are so distracted by being poor. And a lot of tests have, like you guys have talked about, have showed that this is true. And the only thing I really have a problem with in the mental bandwidth theory is that it doesn't account for the emotional trauma that comes with poverty and a lot of other situations like that. So in conclusion, I don't agree with all of them fully, but I really don't agree with the human capital theory. So thank you.